So you want to get a betta fish, but you're not sure what is the best place to actually buy one. Keep watching as I share all the places I looked at before buying my next betta. Hi, I'm Irene with Girl Talks Fish, here with practical tips on nanofish and planted aquariums. And if you've been following this channel, you know that my 3.5-year-old betta fish, Soundwave, passed away back in May. Now, I love bettas. They are one of my favorite fish in the hobby, so I knew I eventually wanted to get one, but where should I go shopping? It's gotta be a place that obviously has healthy fish, plenty of selection, but I think price probably, I'd like to stay below $50 just because I'm not looking to breed or raise up the next national champion. Now, some of you may say, Irene, this is the perfect chance for you to rescue a betta and give it the best life possible. For me, I did look on Craigslist and there was like maybe 1 or 2 bettas up at the time. So not a great selection, not exactly the kind of color type that I was looking for. And also the people that are getting rid of the bettas, I have no idea what kind of questionable care they put under a betta, they put the betta under. You know, dogs, like absolutely, we adopted our dog. She's been with us for a decade almost now, versus a betta, their lifespan is so short. I might be getting a pretty ancient betta, and I just don't feel like I could go through the pain of losing another one so soon after losing Soundwave. So that's why I chose not to go with Craigslist. Now, on the way other end of the spectrum would be someplace like Aquabid, selling lots of, there's lots of selection of high-end bettas that are champion quality. You can pay a lot of money for them. But the reason why I decided not to go with that option, at least right now, is normally what the fish farms do is they ship them from overseas over to the US. They go to a transshipper, and then the transshipper, you pay that transshipper for shipping it again to send to your house. And just the 2 shipment process with the pandemic going on right now, shipping has been pretty slow. There's been lots of delays, lack of tracking. So I think just right now is not a good time for me, at least, to go on Aquabid and use that transshipper route. Maybe in the future. Another option that I looked into would be supporting one of my fellow fish tubers. A lot of them do raise their own betta fish, and so I thought it'd be really cool to get one from them, especially since it would be domestic shipping only. So hopefully that would reduce the chances of something happening. Unfortunately, I did go to a lot of their websites and they just didn't have, well, first of all, there was small inventory and then all of them were out of stock. The thing with, the amateur breeder is that they breed them when they can and the bettas come out when they do. And so right now, at least, they didn't have any bettas available on their website. So maybe next time, but that's another cool option to consider. Now, lucky for me, I actually have a local betta importer. Ben Moa has actually been to several aquashellas, and I think his company is called MB Bettas Aquatics. I'm going to put it down in the description below. But basically, he goes through the trouble of importing all of these really awesome bettas from overseas. He has them in his facility, and then you can actually go to his place and pick them out personally, which I actually prefer, and he's local to me in Colorado. Unfortunately, when I pinged him at the time, he's going with kind of the trendiest bettas right now, which I guess are koi bettas, the ones with lots of colors, but lots of splotchiness on them. And for me, I kind of had a bad experience with, Soundwave was supposed to be a butterfly betta. So he was supposed to be blue with a black head and a white band on his fins and tail. And all of that white disappeared. And he ended up being an entirely blue betta, which there's nothing wrong with, but I'm a little bit of a control freak and I like to see the betta that I get and then they stay the same color the whole time. So koi bettas, a lot of them are known to have marbling happen if the genetics aren't totally solid, where you start off with one betta and then it changes color over time, which a lot of people think is really, really cool. It's just not for me. I'm old school. I'm kind of looking for more solid colored bettas right now. So I decided not to go with Ben right now, but maybe next time in the future, again, because it's so conveniently local to me. Now, fortunately, my local fish store also sells bettas, and they have this really cool betta fish rack where each of the containers have an individual drip system, so they're constantly getting clean water. Really cool, got this nice lighting. You can go there and spend hours just staring at all the varieties. I think they were also in between shipments, just like Ben, because they only had mostly blue bettas with red fins. Like, I think they were probably all siblings from the same batch. And the plan for my betta is actually to go and be in this tank where you see there's a lot of green and then there's a little spot of red. You can see Mio swimming around, and eventually I want to add more of Mio's siblings in there. So we'll have red, orange, and greenery, and I wanted the betta to be another color than red or green so that he really stands out as the centerpiece of this aquarium. So unfortunately I decided to pass on the local fish store since they mostly only had blue and red bettas. So that leaves my local pet stores, like the big name ones. And so where I live, they are mostly PetSmarts and Petco's. And the PetSmart near me, they have a 14-day return policy if your fish is sick. But most of the bettas, when I've checked them out, usually have the typical kind of clamped fins, not the healthiest, most active fish. Whereas my local Petco's, they're great. They have a lot of different kind of varieties. The water's always clean. When I went there, the fish were very active. Very few of them were just laying on the ground, not doing anything. They all seemed pretty healthy. So I went in there and I decided to get a paradise betta, which is their nomenclature for a mustard gas betta. He has a blue body and yellow fins and tail. So after a lot of searching and pinging all my friends for geek references, video games, TV shows, that kind of thing, I decided to name him Sonic. Now, Sonic the Hedgehog is technically blue with red shoes, but there's a little known game where he had a Super Saiyan version of him, Super Sonic, and he was all yellow. So because of that, I'm naming him Sonic because there's a blue and yellow version of that character. Now, Sonic has been in my house for about a month right now because, as you know, all fish that enter my household definitely go through quarantine. It may not be as necessary for betta fish because they're usually kept in a single container all their lives, but I definitely have had bettas that I took home and they died of dropsy within 2 days. So it's just better we play it safe than sorry. Anyways, he is very lively. He was definitely a juvenile because he was kind of smaller sized. And then after feeding him lots of good foods and nice variety, he's definitely gotten bigger in that time. So I have high hopes that he is kind of on the younger side age-wise, and hopefully I'll be able to enjoy a nice long lifespan with him. So once he gets out of quarantine, I can't wait to officially introduce him under the beautiful fluval lighting of my main community tank. I hope he's gonna look great. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of other great places you can buy a betta fish. I didn't cover, for example, a lot of these specialty betta online stores. So leave a comment down below if you have any great suggestions to help other people in the comments. And then before I leave, a huge thank you to Claire and Bonnie for becoming my latest Patreon supporters. You guys are the best. I could not do this without you. Take time to enjoy your aquariums, and I'll see you in the next video.